Okay, so it's important to recognize the many layers involved in sculpting, and they're really exciting layers. We start at the skeletal level. We build what we call an armatures, and this armature is accurate to the skeletal proportions within the body. So it's a very intricate way of beginning to study the anatomy of the animal. Now you might say, well, it just looks like a stick horse, and perhaps it does, but at the beginning stages. However, what's different about it from a stick horse is that those proportions that are being measured out are accurate to the living creature. So as you go through this process of building the armature, you are analyzing those shapes and those locations of those bones, where they're going to lay on, and you're visualizing how this process is going to be as you're layering on clay over this armature. So it's a really awesome way to go about studying the bones. And the first step, like I said, is building that structure, giving it support system, which we typically use aluminum wire. And we build a support system within the clay, and then build the skeleton over that. Then the next layer would be the muscular layer, and within the muscular layer there's actually several layers. We have the skeletal muscles, and actually before the skeletal muscles we have the tendons and the ligaments, because the tendons and the ligaments hold bones together, and they allow for movement of the bones. Then we have the skeletal muscles, like I said. These skeletal muscles are the deepest muscles within the body. They lay on bone directly, and they are very, very important for posture. So depending on the posture or composition that we would choose to put the sculpture in, we would layer those muscles on in a specific way that complements that posture. Then we would layer on the next deep layer of the muscles and complementing the posture that has been chosen. And we continue through those layers until we get to the superficial layers of the muscles, and then layer on the skin and perfect maybe some of the conformation that is involved in the particular animal for identifying that individual. And then notating, of course, the refined detail of areas like the eyes, the nose, the hair, the legs, the feet. And all of this comes together in the sculpting process. So the many layers are not only really awesome and fun, it's a very practical way to study the anatomy and all the structures within the body. Now there's also a deeper structure that you can start from, rather than going directly to bone. If you have an interest in studying areas such as the brain, you can sculpt that inside the skull and then put the skull over it. So there's lots of ways that are possible to apply this in a way that is not just 2D and not just dissection. Dissection, of course, is extremely helpful, but it is also the opposite of what we do in sculpting. Sculpting, we build it from the inside out. Dissection, you're coming from the outside going in. So bringing those two elements together is extremely helpful for learning the anatomy as well. So it's a long process. Sculpting takes time, particularly when you want to sculpt all of these layers. So on average, as a professional sculptor, if I'm doing a piece, it might take me anywhere from a few weeks to several months. So an anatomical sculpture of this type would take the new sculptor several months to learn how to do the sculpting process, but also in that process learn the muscles, their terms, their shapes, their functions, where they belong, and so on and so forth throughout the process. So it's an extremely fun, extremely great way to really ingrain this information into your brain, and to be able to recall that information easily, because you've now shaped it with your hands and your fingers. You've visualized it numerous times. You've drawn it in preparation for your sculpting. You've observed the living animal. So all of this comes together and provides you with a really clear understanding of the equine body and how that functions as a single unit. So those are the many layers of sculpting. If you had any notion that it was easy, it's not. I'm here to be truthful to you. It takes time. It takes a lot of perseverance, because it is a skill to learn, but anybody can learn it. That's the beauty of an art form such as sculpture. There's a process that, when followed, the student is successful, and that's just, we can say that. I can say that for sure, because it's a very, very old process that we utilize, and it is not based on talent. It's based on applying the processes and the techniques in the way that is provided to the student, and then that student is able to grow utilizing those processes and techniques. So I hope you liked this video. Please hit the subscribe down below if you liked it, and share it with your family, your friends, so that they can start learning anatomy as well.